Joe Flacco named the Browns starting quarterback. Are you surprised?
Not surprised. We've been telling, I think I called it last week, right? The delegate from NOSO, we called it last week. This should be a surprise to absolutely nobody. I'm not going to continue to do my Daryl Ryder shtick here where I'm not surprised at all, but like honestly, not surprised. But it is interesting what this does for the other quarterbacks involved. And it is interesting because if you start Joe Flacco the way that they say they are, what is that, 8-9 games? Like that's a commitment to a 40-year-old quarterback.
I'm just thankful I don't have to worry about them bullying their way to Dylan Gabriel starting week 1. There were certain things that I was comfortable with. People not named Joe Flacco starting week 1. The more we saw of Dylan Gabriel in the preseason and in camp, the less I was interested in.
Yeah.
And that felt like the only guy that really had a chance once Kenny Pickett got his hamstring hurt 4 practices in to the preseason.
I mean, did you see, like I went on one of the Vegas shows over the weekend, my friends in the desert, and they were reading off to me the lines on who would be the QB1. And Flacco was only minus 310 at that point. And they even had Kenny Pickett not too far behind him, which means, for instance, if you put $300 down, you'd win $100, which is insane to think about. It was a Saturday right before the game got underway. Like it should have been dead and buried. It should have been locked that Flacco was the starter, and even Vegas couldn't commit because they didn't know what Stefanski was doing.
Now, I do think, I think the Browns are interesting for the first few weeks of the season because Joe's starting as opposed to anybody else. Like I think if one of the rookies started, it would have been interesting for a different reason. If Kenny Pickett had started, that really was like the worst like potential outcome to have
for me and you. Yeah.
Just because if you're going to subvert expectations at all this year, if you're going to give that locker room a chance, you needed somebody that either had a blank slate and had come from out of nowhere, like one of the rookies to win the job, or you needed a guy with a certain, it's honestly the arm. Like with Kenny Pickett, the offense would have looked a lot like the offense looked like with Dylan Gabriel over the weekend, where run sets up the pass, and your third down throws are like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5. I know Dylan did have the 1 3rd and 10, which is his best play of the game. But now with Flacco, like there is a chance, I don't know how big of a chance, that the offense can have some level of explosion early in the season.
Oh, yeah. Like you're open to win a couple of these games. As hard as that first 6 games are, if Flacco's your quarterback, and especially with the defense the way that we think that it can be, you can win some of these games. Like it won't be a shock if you win. You've been calling out week 1 against Cincinnati for how long now? That's not a shock if you beat the Bengals week 1.
And I don't think it'd be a shock if they come out of the first 6 games 3-3. But it's going to be a scenario where the defense is top 5. Joe mitigates the turnovers, and you're able to get those big plays like you did 2 years ago.
Like Joe can get hot. It's just whether or not he can limit the turnovers. Like he can cook. It's just how many interceptions is he going to throw in the process?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think Joe can still spin the ball. I don't think that's nobody's reinventing the wheel with that take. I think the question is, can he do it for 18 weeks? I would lean into no.
I would also lean into no. I don't know anyone that's leaning into yes, by the way.
I bet you the closer we get to the regular season, you're going to hear some
people. Are people going to convince themselves that he's going to start? Because if he starts every single game this year, then listen, Phelps called it a colossal failure. I won't go to that extreme, but if he plays every game this year, what are we doing?
So I didn't hear Phelps say colossal failure. In what way was it a colossal failure? Meaning like the failure is on the Browns?
He says because of the 4-man competition, and I'm doing a lot of transcribing in my brain on the fly here. So if I get some of this wrong, I apologize, Jeff. But
I do not.
But his leaning on it was the idea because it was a 4-man competition, and because Joe Flacco won that competition, it became, before it ever even started, a colossal failure, while acknowledging that if Joe wins, then it will turn from a colossal failure into something else.
So
like it's got a chance to be something other than that. That was the out that he gave himself.
So
this process right now, that's what he called a failure.
I firmly disagree. I think it's a colossal failure for Kenny Pickett that he got his hamstring hurt, because I think they were going to try and gift that job to him in spite of Joe Flacco. But I mean, that's not, the Browns didn't fail there. The rookie quarterbacks, I think one got a decent chance to make a run at the job, probably because of Kenny's injury, and the other didn't. So if you want to say like that's the failure, yeah, I can understand that part of it. But just Joe being named the starter, no. I mean, Joe is here to be the break glass in case of emergency. If nobody distinguishes themselves, you've got the veteran in the room, you've got the adult in the room. That's what Joe is. And I Like I think you have permission to be excited about this. I don't think the Browns failed this, other than if you think the 4 quarterbacks they brought in the first place aren't going to work out, and then you probably never thought they were going to succeed in the first place.
Well, and here's another way you might look at it as a failure. If you wanted to solely look at this season as we are taking our medicine and we're not really going to try to win games. Because you might win some games with Flacco. You might win enough games to go ahead and take yourself out of a top 5 selection in the draft. And in the process, you're not really giving Gabriel or Shador enough time to be able to find out if either one of them are franchise quarterbacks.
I feel like I have a contingent based whether that'll be if you win 7 games and you take your place out of getting a quarterback, that's a failure. If you win 10 or more games, or if you win 9 or more games and you're in the playoffs, making the playoffs can never be seen as a failure. No matter, apologies to Pittsburgh fans, no matter what it means afterwards.
Well, and Stefanski needs the wins, and Stefanski needs a bounce-back season. I think Stefanski knows better than anyone, as much as he can allude to just trying to go along with whatever the plan from the people up top is. You can't win 3 games in back-to-back seasons and keep your job.
And again,
that is next to impossible.
That's where we come back to Joe Flacco. Like, Joe Flacco gives Kevin Stefanski a chance with those veterans to not just keep them early, but to win enough games to keep them long-term. I continue to point back to Russell Wilson's last year in Denver, right? Well, now, in fairness, there were a lot of shenanigans behind the scenes, business shenanigans playing out, evil shenanigans, some might say, playing out behind the scenes where they were threatening to bench him if he didn't take a pay cut. You can make a case that George Payton and Sean Payton kind of sabotaged that season in the name of trying to bend Russ to their will. It didn't work out, and I think they went 7-10. That's kind of where I think this is if Joe plays 18 games. Not the shenanigans part, but you got a veteran quarterback that can do 1 or 2 things really well at this point in their career, but they're not good enough to compete in a lot of games, and you're going to need some good breaks to get to that sub 500, just below 500 echelon. I do think that's possible with Joe if he plays 18 games. The problem is seeing him play 18 games and what happens when you get your first 2-game losing streak.
Well, and the fun part about this for us is that the variance is just so large, and what could happen just it changes really what you think about the upcoming seasons as well. Like I heard again in Baskin Phelps in that segment, they were talking about what happens if Flacco does win 10 games like you alluded to. Does that mean you're off the quarterback board for 2026 completely? Does that mean Flacco then is your Baskin tried making the case Flacco at 41 then would come back and play another season?
Oh, I don't think we can discount that.
But you see how open this all is?
Yeah.
Do you see how we can, in any direction you can go where Flacco plays all 18, even comes back for another season. You can also do a direction where he plays 4 games, falls flat on his face. You usher in Gabriel or Sanders, or hell, maybe Pickett's even on the IR, and then all of a sudden he comes off that list, and then he plays week 5, and then you're off to the races that way. Like, it's so many different things that can happen.
I will say, I get the sense that the Browns are aware nobody expects anything of them. And that a lot of these guys, including Joe Flacco himself, who has made multiple mentions, hey, I can still do this. I'd like if people talk like I could still do this. I would not be surprised if they won a couple extra games this year, just because I think there's a lot of veterans in that room that are getting really sick and tired of hearing how bad they are.
Well, and did you see the video or not where David Njoku's in the car with Joe Flacco when the announcement comes down, and it's him just celebrating like crazy? Like, he's got the support of the locker room in a big-time way. I know a lot of people had support for Shador, but Joe Flacco won a lot of these guys over a couple years ago.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Specific to Shador, it's not Shador's fault that he's been hit with the dreaded D word, developmental. But now this does give him time to disprove that internally for the Browns and continue the momentum that he has had, what I think would be all camp and certainly all preseason long. Does the Flacco news today, does that excite you?
I mean, I just think I was so prepared for it the entire time. Like, I've been prepared now for a few weeks for this to be the news. So it's exciting in that you know what the start is going to be. Like, are you going to say you're like gobsmacked in excitement over this?
No, but I do think the fact that the quarterback kerfuffle is over, and I think we have some clarity going in here. I don't think they needed to name a starting quarterback, but the fact it's Joe and maybe the fact it's not Kenny Pickett,
that's nice.
That feels like a nice
what a
compromise.
Sham that would have been if Kenny Pickett would have been able to play this week and then play in the 3rd preseason game, and then they're like, Kenny Pickett's our guy. That would have been such a sham.
In fairness, the idea if he plays this week and if they just never name a starting quarterback till week 1, I would have been going around with the not minuscule, but not insignificant fear of, is Kenny Pickett still going to get this job? Because I can see being more competitive than people expect the first couple weeks, the first half of the season with Joe Flacco. I can honestly see a game plan where you can drum up a winning philosophy with the two rookies, because it would be so precious with them. You're not going to be trying to establish them. You're just going to be trying to help them survive. With Kenny Pickett, it felt like, yeah, I think this is going to be a disaster.